Welcome, everyone, to the Thursday, June 17th edition of the Galaxy of Geeks live stream. I'm your host. I'm one of your hosts, Victor. On the other end, we have Christian filling in for Mr. Chris Vaglio once again.
Hello,
How are you, sir?
I'm excellent. How are you?
I am doing well myself. We are here to talk a little Loki, a little Bad Batch, a little of everything that's happened as usual, quick hits and all that great stuff. So let's kick things off with a little Bad Batch, because I think that we started to started to figure out some stuff with the chips, with Wrecker, with Omega, so on and so forth. There's been so much chatter about, is she force sensitive? Is she made up of 50% midichlorians? Is she this? Is she that? And we've been waiting for weeks to find out, when is Wrecker's chip going to finally malfunction and he's going to go crazy? And we finally saw it with the appearance of Rex. I think we all knew that Rex was going to show up at some point. We just didn't think he was going to be the one that the sisters were talking to. It was kind of a pretty cool swerve there,
They threw us off with the Jedi robes. I think that was the I think they did that on purpose, absolutely. But that's what threw me off. And even in the beginning of the episode where you see him sitting in the bar and he kind of looks over his drink, I was just like, man, who the hell is that? A part of me always thought, it has to be Rex, because the sisters have Ahsoka as their main contact. Right. And who else? I don't think she would directly she's probably in way deeper hiding than Rex is.
Right.
But yeah, no, it's a tricky one. But yeah, it's hard to tell if Omega was targeted because she was force sensitive, or if it's just because she was with the Bad Batch and helping them out, and they're the traitors. Right. So, but they didn't really specify either way.
Right. It gave me the feeling that the chip kind of maybe has all of the Jedis embedded in the chip so that they know who to go after and who to kill. And maybe it's just that, is whoever stands in their way automatically gets registered to, to that chip. And then they have to, kill that person because, good soldiers, what do they keep saying? Good soldiers
follow orders. Yeah.
Follow orders. There you go. So
I think that makes more sense than a chip that for some reason gives them this ability to sense the Force and, Jedis and people. Right. And it makes more sense that there's some sort of registered database that was programmed into it. Mm-hmm. And they could probably keep adding to it over time, as you said. And,
right.
Put more names on there and all that.
Yeah, to me that makes a lot more sense. But again, they threw us, that swerve with Rex. Who knows what else they have in store?
Yeah. Well, I think we said last episode, we think Wrecker's one head injury away from that chip going off, and that's exactly what happened.
That's what happened. Yeah. Yeah. But now, does this mean that they go after Crosshair? Because that's something that I think they probably want to do. And I think they're going to go back to Camino one way or the other, whether it's for Crosshair, whether it's to find out more about Omega, to liberate all the other clones. I don't know. There's a lot of different things that we could see play out.
I definitely think a mission to kind of extract Crosshair and remove that chip is definitely in order. But then there's a lot going on. I saw that the announcement of the live action Inquisitor show, and there's rumors that they are going to appear in this show, that the Inquisitors are going to show up at some point. Mm-hmm. So whatever the hell they're going up against, it's going to be pretty interesting to see where this comes to a head. And I think someone also, they leaked the titles of the last, I think, 10 episodes or something like that. And I was reading through them. They don't really give anything away, but there's some of them that are pretty I think there's one title, Deal with the Devil, which is like episode 13 or 14 or something. So You know, I feel like they're setting something big up here. I don't know. It's Filoni, so you can trust it's going to be epic, whatever happens.
Right. Yeah. A deal with Maul.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah, we don't know where he is. He's scampering off somewhere. I'm sure he's trying to build the Crimson Dawn and I know he's definitely trying to fight the Empire. So,
right.
I mean, a Bad Batch Maul and Crimson Dawn team up would be pretty cool.
Well, we have to think about the fact that, you know, again, we talked about it last week. He's alive. Crimson Dawn needs to rise to power somehow, you know, even if that's a short-lived power. But and Filoni loves bringing them all in, so I mean, he's got to make a cameo. You know, it's funny. I read somewhere this week the character that got killed off way too soon and we never saw again, and I was like, "Excuse me?"
Yeah.
Clone Wars, Rebels.
Yeah, maybe at first, and I think that's the whole reason that he brought him back in Clone Wars. Is for that, the fact that Maul was so cool and they killed him off so quick. But
right, but much like
he's such a good character, you know.
Much like a comic book, no one is truly dead.
Well, Marvel Comics does own all the Star Wars comics, so they're notorious for that.
Yeah, well, and look at Palpatine. Same deal. We saw him show up how many years later? So,
I think Qui-Gon and Dooku are the only two that stay dead. Yeah, those poor guys.
Well, do we see Qui-Gon as a Force ghost though? Because he was a Force ghost. Was he a Force ghost at the end of Episode 1?
I don't remember. I mean, I haven't seen Episode 1 in years.
Right. Yeah, I don't remember either. But I kind of think that he wasn't, because something along the lines of him not being able to study to become
he didn't learn. He didn't learn that yet. Yeah.
Right.
Well, because Yoda didn't even learn it, I think, until that Clone Wars episode. Remember that there was that Yoda arc where he went to that planet to kind of unlock the true secrets of the Force and all that stuff. So I think that happened then, and then he probably taught that to Obi-Wan at some point and all that. So yeah,
right. Yeah, I
feel like Qui-Gon's like the Uncle Ben of Star Wars. The one character that stays dead.
That's funny. Yeah. Speaking of leaks, I know that they leaked the Ahsoka, the logo for Ahsoka, but who knows if that's not something that a fan put together. But apparently the logo is like the circle that's in the cave where
that's official. I think that they showed the logo when Kathy Kennedy initially announced all the series at E3 or D3 or D2. What is it? E3 is a video game one,
right?
Whatever that Disney convention was, the shareholders meeting where Kevin Feige announced all the shows. I think they had that logo that whole time. But yeah, it looks like the World Between Worlds, but
right. That's what I'm getting at. And it's funny that there's people, you know, I know that Chris is a massive fan of the whole World Between Worlds thing. And I guess this was announced around Christmas actually. So I'm the dope that just found out now about it. But all right. So I just opened up an article. Let me share this.
Yeah, I think all the sequel haters are obsessed with the World Between Worlds too, because they're like, that Ahsoka logo, that's proof that the sequels aren't canon anymore. That's it. Lucasfilm's erasing them.
Yeah, that's ridiculous. So here we see the Ahsoka with that World Between Worlds thing, but there's more. Meditation in Fallen Order in the video game. Same circle. Grogu on Tython. Similar circle. Okay. It's not a clean, distinct definition, you know, but it's a circle. So, you know, people will go with it. And here, let's see the World Between Worlds. Yeah, it's a circle, but it's, you know, kind of like that meme that you threw up I guess here it looks closer, but again, is that exactly the same? I mean,
it's similar enough to make people speculate. I think.
yeah.
I think that's probably the plan.
Yeah. What was that meme that you shared? I have a thing in mind. Oh my God, the thing is appearing next week.
No, yeah, yeah. That means that's the thing confirmed.
The thing confirmed. Or the other good one that I saw in Falcon and Winter Soldier was look, the building, that they bombed, the GDU building or whatever it was called. Oh my God, there's an X sign right in front. I'm like, that sign means no parking either side in Europe.
Oh, yeah.
Okay, yes, it's an X, but doesn't mean the X-Men are popping out all of a sudden. We're not seeing, Wolverine and a bunch of Sentinels popping out all of a sudden.
Exactly. It's not like because in Far Away Home, Spider-Man Far From Home, they really did that in the last scene where they show like what's coming next and they highlight the four. And It's like, everyone thought that was Fantastic Four, but it's kind of like more of a nod, I think, to Phase 4 because that's what's coming next. Yeah. But I guess think Fantastic Four too as well.
Yeah. Yeah. I think what they were alluding to there is both, is that Phase 4 will probably wrap up with Fantastic Four.
Yeah.
So, what do you think is next for Bad Batch? Do you think it's going to take much longer for them to decide they don't want to work for Sid anymore? Do you think that we'll find out? I mean, given that Rex was behind the sisters, again, more plausible that maybe Maul is behind Sid?
Possibly, yeah. That would be cool, actually. I don't know. It seems like they kind of left on a cliffhanger. Like it's going to be like a little arc, probably a 2-3 episode arc of them trying to get off this planet, Baka, I believe it is, because it was the planet from the Jedi Fallen Order video game,
right?
Where Cal Kestis worked as a kid, the Jedi and that. So it's, with Filoni, there can't be any coincidence that they're on that exact planet. And it ended with the guild kind of finding them and report it to the Empire. So I don't think they're getting off that planet anytime soon. But they don't have their chips anymore, so we don't got to worry about Wrecker. So I guess we got to see what comes next,
Yeah, I mean, that's a good point. Do we see them trying to get away from the guild? Is that the next, episode where they're on the planet and they have to escape from the planet between the guild and maybe even the Empire showing up, or maybe Fennec or another bounty hunter shows up? Because they're after Omega.
That's true. Well, it seems to be setting up that perfect kind of Clone Wars arc where, they get captured for an episode and then they escape. There's a big escape. And that would be cool, if Fennec shows up to kind of help them escape so she could get her bounty or something. And I don't know. It's interesting. And it's Fennec working with Boba Fett because, he's around. He's an active bounty hunter. He's working with Bosk and Ventress and all those. Well, I think Ventress is probably dead at this point, but he's still bounty hunting as a kid. So do they know each other already? Is he going to show up?
Chris is keeping his fingers crossed that Cad Bane shows up somehow.
Yeah.
Yeah.
But yeah, that could be interesting, because Boba Fett and Omega would probably be around almost the same age, right? At this point. Boba Fett would probably, maybe like a couple years older, maybe like he's 15 or 16. She's like, 12 or whatever. That would be an interesting little team up between the two of them.
That's interesting because, Boba was always kind of kept aside too from the other clones. Do we get backstory on Boba Fett in this as well, where maybe something like that does happen? Maybe they do go back to Kamino and they find him, and him and Omega know one another. Yeah. And maybe, who knows, maybe Fennec's ultimate thing is that she's been paid to kind of free Boba Fett or protect Boba Fett somehow. And that's why there's this team up all these years later.
Yeah, like he kind of owes her one So that's why
Right.
he repairs her with the iron stomach and all that stuff. Yeah.
Right. Exactly. I mean, who knows? They can, Filoni can take this in a lot of directions.
And I'm sure he will.
Yeah. The other thing that would be cool, and I've mentioned this in the past, is if we see, the animated version of, for example, I'm trying to find the exact name of the character. Carl Weathers, Grief Karga.
Yeah, Grief Karga.
That'd
be cool. Yeah.
Yeah. Do we see, like, again, the beginning of the Bounty Hunter Guild? Because let's be honest, he's portraying somebody in their 60s during The Mandalorian. The Mandalorian is 30 years after Boba Fett, and this is probably Bad Batch is probably how many years before New Hope?
Well, if it's right after Order 66, God, it's still like 20 something years. Or how old is Luke in A New Hope? That's the question.
Yeah,
I think he's like 17. So yeah, it's like
17.
15 to 20 years, probably somewhere in that realm. I know the answer. I just can't. I'm blanking on this specific.
Okay, but it's plausible that we could see a young Grief Karga.
And that we're talking like prime Predator Carl Weathers.
Yeah, exactly.
Yeah. Just ripped and awesome young bounty hunter. That would be cool to see a young, like he was like a badass in his prime,
Right. And due to, how good he was as a bounty hunter, he ends up leading, all these bounty hunters for all of these years. Boba has been like the focal piece, but let's say that he's the one that, maybe he has Fennec go and save him. And because Boba was with Ventress, wasn't he, in Clone Wars? And he was with, so maybe we have a tie-in with all of that.
Yeah, that's what I'm so bummed they killed her off in a book. I heard it was a great book. Because she falls in love with a Jedi, from what I heard at one point, and then she tries to kill Dooku, and he takes her out in a book, which obviously is before Episode 3, which bums me out because she's such a cool character, especially to see her in live action as a former Sith apprentice with that power, acting as a bounty hunter.
Right,
he's so cool. It's just such a badass character.
Well, like we said, Maul was able to come back. Who knows if Dooku thought she was dead and she really wasn't. Boba Fett.
If she fell from somewhere, she'll come back. That's the law of the law of the realm.
Yeah. Well, Boba Fett.
I haven't read the book. I got to read it.
You leave the door open for Boba. You leave the door open for Mace Windu. There's a few people.
Well, Bosk was with Boba Fett too, so maybe Bosk will show up.
There you go.
Yeah, he was peppered in the Clone Wars as well.
Yeah. Yeah, because we don't know how old he was, but
and him and Sid are both, Trandoshans.
Yeah.
So maybe she knows Bosk,
Maybe that's the tie-in there. I didn't even think of that. Maybe Bosch is the one that wanted the battle droid head.
Yeah. No, that would be interesting. Because I heard it's confirmed that Bosk is in the Book of Boba Fett as well.
Right.
Yeah, so that would be pretty awesome.
Cool. So awesome. Looking forward to tomorrow's episode of The Bad Batch. Almost said the Clone Wars.
I'll be pulling the all-nighter to watch it tonight, as I've been doing.
Cool. It comes out at what, 3 a.m. for you?
Yeah, 3 a.m. Woof.
Yeah.
It was a lot better when I was in California.
Right, because it came out at midnight. Yeah. Here it's 9 a.m. my time. It comes out.
Well, that's nice. That's perfect.
Yeah.
Wake up, spend an hour awake, and then watch it. Yeah.
There you go.
I've been torturing myself since WandaVision started with all this staying up. Oh, since Mandalorian actually. But yeah.
I did that with Game of Thrones. I was up. I would go to sleep at 11 o'clock. And I would set my alarm clock for 2:45 in the morning, I think it was. Either 2:45 or 3:45. I forget if it aired at 9 or 10 Eastern. But anyway, I'd wake up, I'd watch it, and then if I could, I'd go back to sleep. And then the season finales, my wife would always wake up with me to watch
Nice.
them. So, cool. So let's move on to Loki, which we had episode 2 yesterday. Again, for anyone who's doubted what Feige is doing with the MCU, and I see this a little bit like The Mandalorian as well, if you really want to examine it, because they can have this big bombastic theater releases while at the same time they're releasing these other types of series on Disney Plus to kind of also placate to the comic book nerd that loves this type of storytelling and this detailed type of stories where it doesn't have to be about explosions and action every single second. It's cool when that's peppered in there, but I keep saying it week after week. WandaVision was one thing. Falcon and Winter Soldier was something else, and Loki is something completely different. And at the same time, these guys are all pushing forward the Marvel universe, whether you want to see the direct correlations or not. But I mean, there's plenty of videos out there and plenty of sites out there that will give you all the little Easter eggs to tell you, well, this ties into this ties into that. I think it's awesome that, again, this episode was completely different to the first episode.
Yeah,
the first episode, as we said, it was kind of a flashback without being a flashback. It gave you enough of a setup from both Loki's past and Loki's present. So if you haven't seen, Endgame or anything like that, you're there. You already know what's going on more or less. If you wade through the confusion, because
my friend didn't see Endgame and she started Loki and she said she was fine. She was, oh, I get it. Yes, they explained enough in that first episode.
Right. So, what were your big takeaways from this episode?
There is so much in this episode, from like setting up the lore of everything, and I think the big take is what Lady Loki or Enchantress, I'm sure we'll get into that discussion
right.
eventually, but what this main plan is. And it seems to me like the idea of her stealing all those kind of reset things, the bombs, and then sending out all the TVA agents to all these different timelines. I mean, I think that's gonna leave the TVA pretty open to attack, and she has the tech to get there. So I think her next move, next episode, is her showing up at the TVA, and whatever the hell her plan is, we don't know yet. But it seems like we just saw step one, of what she's really planning to do, and Loki's with her now. So that's the other thing. So now we gotta see. It's really I don't know, just kind of bummed me out that they built this. I mean, Loki's still just Loki, because you think in the first episode that watching that video and all the future predictions and everything, that it kind of like gave him a little slap, and he's like, all right, I'm going to help out. I'm going to do this. But he's still trying at every turn to screw everyone over. Right. And immediately in the first episode, he tried to get away, and then he escapes at the end. And I feel bad for Mobius, to be completely honest. I just want the show has to end with him on a jet ski, just right into the sunset, because he deserves it. Right. But I think out of the 3 shows, this one, their relationship between the two of them is probably the best, like, buddy relationship so far. I mean, even better than Sam and Bucky and Wanda and Vision. I think these two have the best chemistry, and it's their characters are perfect against each other. In every scene, they just chew it up, and all they do is talk, and it's great. Yeah. Do you think, though, that even though he followed her, is he going to follow her to help, or is he going to follow her to stop her? Yeah, that's another thing, because I feel like maybe she might even have the same plan that he had for her, where she's trying to overthrow the TVA and take control of it. Right. Because I feel like, if they're both convinced that this is the most powerful thing in the entire existence,
Mhm.
then wouldn't a Loki want to be at the helm of that, or in some way be in charge? Take over Renslayer's job as like the main judge or something.
Right.
But I feel like it's going to be a hard battle because I know I don't think our Loki is going to want her to be the supreme Loki. He's always going to be like, but I'm the better Loki. So I don't think he's ever going to want her to be in charge of him. And that clash is going to, I mean, who knows?
Okay, so let me ask you this. Do you think she's the big bad, or is she being ordered to do what she's doing by somebody else?
That's another question. A lot of people are speculating Mobius might even be a part of this on her side, like trying to overthrow the TVA. I heard a really cool rumor about, when she kidnapped that one officer and she kept saying like, she was going nuts and like repeating all the words and stuff. People are saying that maybe the variants, or maybe the agents of the Time Variant Authority are actually variants that were kind of brainwashed and given that job. They weren't like particularly created. So that's why Owen Wilson's always drinking like 90s beverages, always talking about jet skis and stuff like that, because maybe he was a variant from the 90s and he has this weird semblance of memory from that. And because all they say is, oh, I just spent my whole life at a desk. Like nobody really seems to know how they got there. They're just there. So there's a lot of different speculations going around out there.
Could that tie into Wanda? Because we saw that in WandaVision.
Exactly. Yeah. That brainwashing kind of thing. And that's, I think, because Falcon and the Winter Soldier obviously is setting up the street level thing. We're probably going to get the Thunderbolts and then tie into She-Hulk and all that stuff. Wanda seems to be that magic bridge between the street level stuff and Loki, which is full blown just starting the whole cosmic multiverse thing.
Right.
And, it seems like what happened in the last episode might even be what starts Doctor Strange, because you saw that. I mean, how are they going to control all those timelines?
Right.
And someone broke down the computer screen because they list all the planets and years. And there's like Vormir on there. There's Asgard. There's like every place we've basically seen in the MCU is listed. There's Ego as a planet, Nowhere, all that stuff. So there's a branch reality in each one of these parts because of what she did. So is Loki going to have to go to all these different timelines, and are we going to see more of like past locations and weird kind of stuff in between? I don't know. It's all over the place. I had to watch it twice just to like really kind of.
So here's another question. What if it's the Loki that Thanos killed is the one that's controlling her, and what they're trying to do is reset the timeline before he dies?
That's a good idea too. That would be pretty cool. Because I mean, Loki is fake every time he's died on screen. I think it's been like 3 times. It means nothing. He's never dead.
Right.
So he always comes back. So yeah, there has to be something there.
I don't remember who the character was, and I want to think it was one of the Marvel series, but it was along the lines of what you pointed out in the chat, in that from the translations, we kind of found out who the character is. So instead of being called Lady Loki, we saw it was Sylvie. And Sylvie is referring to Sylvie Lushton, who is a regular human until Loki gave her powers just to mess with her, basically.
Yeah, and use her as his kind of like, agent of destruction. Yeah, she's the second iteration of Enchantress, because the first one was Amora, and she's like a classic Thor villain for decades.
Right.
But she was in Agents of S.H.I.E.L.D. There was that arc in Agents of S.H.I.E.L.D. with Amora and Enchantress. Yeah. It's when Lady Sif comes back.
Yep.
And so if that's no longer canon, then I would assume like, if they're going to go the Enchantress route, they'll do the younger kind of thing. And that's what everyone's saying. It's just like, oh, why is he blonde? Where's the thick, greasy black hair and those blue eyes? Like, why does she not look like Loki at all?
Right.
And then just saying the word, enchantment magic, that's a weak strategy. And stuff like that. And when he calls her, he goes, oh, Loki, I presume. She goes, don't call me that.
Right.
So and her power set is very Enchantress. I mean, that's just like the manipulating people and all that. That's Enchantress to the T.
Right.
And yeah, with a Sylvie Lushton kind of quote or name in the credits, because in American credits, all the other credits, it says the variant is what she's listed as. She's never listed as Lady Loki or Loki. It just says the variant. And then there's the one in the Spanish credits that says Sylvie.
Yeah.
So, yeah, that's up for debate.
Here is something else that they're going crazy with. Loki has debuted to the biggest numbers of any series on Disney Plus, which has been driving me crazy because Fridays historically is one of the days that the least amount of TV is watched.
Yep.
Because a lot of people, it's the end of their work week. They go out to dinner, they go out for drinks, and unless there's some sporting event, usually it's a pretty dead day for TV. It's usually Fridays and Saturdays are usually days where shows are placed to die.
Yeah.
Because that gives them the excuse to say, hey, well, you only pulled in like a fourth of what you did on Wednesday night. People are home on Wednesdays. Tuesdays, Wednesdays, and Thursdays are the biggest TV nights when it comes to series. People can argue that, Monday Night Football pulls in these numbers. Right. That's a sporting event, and that's just one specific example. When Monday Night Football isn't on Mondays and you're back to just having series on those nights, the numbers aren't that big because people are still recouping from the weekend.
Yeah.
So that's why Tuesdays, Wednesdays, and Thursdays are historically when network TV has placed all of their bigger series because they're bigger draws. So to me, it's asinine for them to say that. It to me is along the lines of when they start to say, Endgame or Avatar once again is the biggest box office maker of all time. And it's like, right. Because tickets are like $18 a seat in certain places where when New Hope came out, they were $325.
Yeah.
How is
I paid $35 for my Endgame ticket at the Chinese theater in Hollywood because it was like the IMAX and the seats all move around and they vibrate like a roller coaster and stuff, and they pump like scents and all this stuff. It's 4D, it's worth it. But yeah, I spent $35 on one ticket, and that was a packed out theater. So
so there you go. I mean, if you look at the number of tickets sold, because they never talk about that. How many tickets did New Hope sell versus Rise of Skywalker? I would have to think that New Hope is, if not outsold all the other movies, I would think that the original three have probably done quite a bit more than what any movie after that has done in the saga. Not
they
because
released twice as well.
Right. So that's what I'm getting at. Between all the releases, between the fact that Star Wars, when New Hope came out, how long was that in the theaters? Stuff that you don't see anymore. Yeah, you see Endgame or you see Avatar last 4 months, 5 months, 6 months when you look at, cinemas that don't show new releases, that show, movies that have come out a few months previous.
Yeah.
So sure, there's that longevity, but it isn't like New Hope that was probably out in theaters, for probably over a year when it first came out. So again, I think they should compare apples to apples. Okay, well, how many tickets did Avatar sell versus how many did New Hope sell in combining all of its run? Because Avatar's also come out several times as well. Oh, we've got a new cut. They did that with Endgame. We've got a new cut. Well, what is it? Well, it's like 10 seconds with Professor Hulk saying I don't know what. I'm like, seriously? They're going to have people go back to the theater just for that, for a 10-second edition?
Oh, yeah, it was that scene with him where he's like saving someone from a burning building or something like that.
Right.
Yeah. I didn't go back for that. I saw it I think 3 times before that. So I'm like,
Well, it wasn't enticing enough.
But yeah, I think I agree. It has to be based on number of ticket sales. It can't be money.
Right.
Because they don't really adjust for that.
Right.
So Yeah, but I also heard that because of that, all future Disney Plus shows are going to start being Wednesday shows. Because especially with the movies coming out, they're going to want people to go see the movies on Friday night or go to the movies on Saturday night. So they figure, well, look how good Loki did. So if we move all the other shows to Wednesday, and then people go see the movies on the weekend, then that's smart.
I have to think though, when they start overlapping with Marvel and Star Wars series, that they'll probably have like one of the shows will, one universe will be one day and the other one will be another day, similar to what they're doing now with Wednesday, Friday. It'll probably end up being like Tuesday, Wednesday, or Wednesday, Thursday because of that.
Yeah.
But I don't know. In the end, I think for you and me, who are going to watch regardless, the day kind of doesn't matter, So,
I got to keep reminding myself to get my ticket for Black Widow because it's out and it's going to probably be the first movie I go back to see. But I got to buy a ticket, find a nice theater. I think I'll probably go over to Jersey. There's nicer theaters over there than Staten Island.
Well, weird. We just had a theater that's been around for, I want to say like 30 years closed down.
Oof.
But a new one with an IMAX screen opened up 2 months ago.
Oh, wow.
So it's strange because in the area where I live, so there used to be back in the day, like when I was a kid coming over, you had like theaters that were one screen theaters, and they would show maybe 2 different movies a day is what they would do. And it was weird. Every movie had an intermission for you to go out and get popcorn and so on and so forth. But by the time the 90s rolled around, the like Cineplex type setup came over here. So the original movie theaters that were here like that lasted 20 years maybe?
Yeah.
And they closed down. But there were 2 like Cineplexes set up. Once, I'm trying to think. No, there were 2, and then they opened a third one up. Once the third one opened up, the original one closed down. The second one to open has just closed down as the newest one has opened up. So it's weird. There's never been more than 2 like Cineplexes in this area.
Jeez. So, yeah. I remember when I was a kid, we used to go to the movie theater in Atlantic Highlands in Jersey. Okay. That had like 3 or 4 screens like that. It was such a nicer theater than they had the Cineplex in Hazlitt, and then they had the other one in Perth Amboy, I think, right under the bridge.
Right.
And we'd only go there like every once in a while if they didn't have it at Atlantic Highlands. But I always preferred that Atlantic Highlands theater. It was the small theaters. It was just something so much more. It was just a better experience in the Cineplex that are just filled with people.
Right.
And I love the quiet, small, dark, sticky floored theaters. Like that's what I miss.
Yeah,
because the ones in Hollywood. I mean, when I was going to movies, as I said, for the Chinese theater, those places are insane nowadays. Like the theaters are nuts. It's a whole different world. There's bars in there now, and all this kind of crazy stuff.
Yeah,
but I do miss it.
I know that Slamo in the group talks about going to a theater that is couches, and you have a table in front of you, and the entire time there's like ushers are waiting on you. They're bringing you drinks or popcorn or stuff like that. So I mean, they're, I guess, rolling with the punches to get people in because
I got to find that place. Well, that's what I heard. It's that's why they got rid of arcades in a lot of these theaters. They replaced their arcades with bars because it's like, well, it's almost better idea to keep the adults happy than to keep the kids happy. So let's put a bar because they're the ones spending the money.
Right.
So, all the bars that I found in theaters, they used to be the arcade. They closed down all the arcades and.
Right.
So yeah, it's nuts.
Yeah, that
world.
That Perth Amboy theater, the sign was always good to blind you as you were coming over the bridge.
Yeah. And it was right next to that creepy Chuck E. Cheese type place. What was it? Razzmatazz, I think it was called.
I don't know. I don't think I've
Oh
ever
my
been
God.
down there.
Yeah, I remember going as a kid and just being horrified because it had like that animatronic band singing. Oh my God, it was terrifying. But it closed down in the early 90s, I think. And I think the building's still vacant. Now it's just this creepy shell of a horrifying place.
So last thing out of Loki, the hot rumor is that Kang may show up. Do you think we will see Kang in this series?
I don't think they put Renslayer in there to not have Kang show up.
Okay.
Because they're lovers in the comics. Like they're very, very, very much linked to each other. And everyone keeps saying that the middle timekeeper looks like Jonathan Majors. It's like that looks just like him. And every time you see her, she's always framed right in front of him. They always specify that one because even Owen Wilson says, like, oh, they look kind of weird, but that one looks a little, and like she cuts him off, like he's pointing to the middle one. But that would be cool if they kind of throw Kang in as one of the main timekeepers, or even like an ex-timekeeper, or someone that is, he was a timekeeper and now he's trying to overthrow, and he's the one leading this whole charge on the TVA. Yeah, and he's in charge of everything because he's confirmed and cast. So we know he's coming, and
he's confirmed for Doctor Strange. So,
and the whole fact there's that the city in the quantum realm that everyone always said, oh, that's where Kang lives, because in the comics that's where Kang lived, and the two characters said the same line. Michelle Pfeiffer and Ant-Man and the Wasp: time moves differently in the quantum realm, and Owen Wilson in this show: time moves differently in the TVA. So maybe that epic city where the TVA is inside the quantum realm, and that's why time works different. And then they could put Kang in there too. But that would be pretty cool because you see it's a city, and it's been confirmed by the directors. Like, oh yeah, that's a city. Right. And she said there's civilizations down here. Like that's what Michelle Pfeiffer said, and everyone seems to overlook that word. That kind of, it was a little throwaway line. She said it real quick. Oh, there's entire civilizations down here. So you never know. Maybe if the TVA is in the quantum realm, which is known for the time vortexes and all that stuff, it kind of all links together. And to throw Kang in there would just be awesome.
We shall see, I guess.
Yeah, I'm sure we will.
Moving on to WandaVision. I forgot to hit. We jumped right into quick hits. I guess that was kind of a continuation of Loki anyway, so I'll throw that in there now. WandaVision Season 2. Feige was asked about WandaVision Season 2, and his response was yes to an evolution of the storyline, probably and inevitably in many different capacities. So he didn't directly say that there's going to be a WandaVision Season 2, but he's confirming that the storyline will continue. And when asked if the storyline continues in Doctor Strange, he says that's the first place where the story will continue, but there will be other places.
Yeah, that makes sense. I remember seeing for the award shows that it was up for, WandaVision was always up for best blah blah for a limited series, which is always means one series, whereas Falcon and the Winter Soldier was best whatever for a drama series, which means that it'll continue, so limited series usually only means one. So I didn't know if it was, I don't know how they would do a season 2 of that, because that was a very specific kind of concept, and they got into it, they got out of it, and but yeah, it makes more sense. It'll continue, and probably Doctor Strange too, maybe Spider-Man, maybe Loki, I think the only person still trapped in Westview is old Agatha, and they have to get her out of there because she's way too good of a character to just leave.
I think we're gonna see her in Doctor Strange. I mean, Catherine Hahn under Sam Raimi. That's gold. Yeah, she's just such a great actress, and he's just got the mind to use an actress like that in so many. I mean, I can't even imagine her and Bruce Campbell together in
Yeah,
like
I mean,
a scene.
Sam Raimi has always been great at those like elder witch kind of characters, like Drag Me to Hell, the gypsy
Right.
woman in that was such a cool character, and all the Evil Dead stuff, obviously.
Yep.
I think Agatha fits perfectly into his realm of like a character that he could really use, especially with how powerful she is.
Right. Absolutely.
And that's the thing. Is it going to be like Agatha? Does Doctor Strange realize like, oh, I have to save Agatha to stop Wanda? Does she become that like the Loki type, the mischievous villain that fights for good in this? Because that would be cool. There's so much to do. And who is Bruce Campbell going to play? Because he has to be in it. He's never not been in a Sam Raimi movie.
The interesting thing here is there was always a rumor that in the Spider-Man movies, supposedly he was going to be
a Mysterio, right?
I'd heard Mysterio, and I had heard the Taskmaster.
Oh, that'd be fun. If the Taskmaster and Bruce in Black Widow takes the mask off and it's Bruce Campbell, I'm gonna lose it. Stick him anywhere, I'll be happy.
Then I just fucked that up. It's not him. It's the Grim Reaper. I'm sorry.
Oh yeah. Which was hinted in WandaVision with his helmet.
WandaVision. Yeah. So could it be that he appears in, again, Far From Home in a glimpse of him, because they're setting him up to show up in Doctor Strange? I don't know. Or does he just show up in Doctor Strange and say, hey, I was here all this time? Because, again, the rumor is that we're going to see Spider-Man in the Doctor Strange movie as well. So we'll see. Captain America 4. Now, this is something that we've been talking about off and on. Does it make sense to do a Captain America 4, or does it make sense to do another season, do you think, of a Winter Soldier and or at this point in time, Captain America and Bucky?
That's a good, I don't know. I'd like to see all those characters, because the movies always, they put so much more into it in terms of like content. It could be cool to do like a Winter Soldier-esque, and I wish, but if it's a TV show runner, it's the same guy, Marcus Spellman, who's redoing the movie. I don't know, maybe series, I think, would be better. If they got like the Russo brothers, who did Winter Soldier, to be doing Captain America 4, and they did 2 and 3. If they came back and did a Sam Wilson-led Captain America movie, that would be awesome.
Right.
I think that would be really cool. But, it's weird to see these guys transition from TV to film. So I don't know. I just feel like there's too much going on to just kind of restrict it to an hour and a half, 2 hours.
Right, because that's something that we had talked about, because ultimately we got 6 episodes that were all around an hour. So we got more or less 5 hours worth of content. So that's like almost, 2.5 movies, basically? It's going to be hard to tell, as you said, that story or that same amount of story in 2 hours, or even if it's 2.5 hours. Could they do it? Sure. But I don't know. I think it would again make more sense to have that elongated platform where they can tell it, an hour at a time. But the big rumor that I read is that in Captain America 4, Sam and Bucky fight one another.
Oh, interesting.
But don't you think that would have happened in this series, though, as opposed to one? Because it seems like they're already past all of their issues. Why would them fighting happen now as opposed to in the series? If nothing in the series drove them to really lay into one another. Sure, there were the scenes where Sam stopped him from killing John Walker, but there wasn't like an out-and-out fight between them.
If they were to fight, it would have to be a scenario where Bucky gets turned back on somehow.
Right.
Somehow someone figures out a way to activate that chip again or whatever. Now I'm getting mixed up with Bad Batch. But if someone finds a way to activate that brainwashing.
I agree.
And there's plenty of villains out there that have, mind manipulation powers and could probably do that stuff. Not even if they did it technologically based or
right.
But I don't know. Yeah, it just left so much open with like the Countess and John Walker, obviously setting up a path for them to do something. And it's interesting. I think if Bucky and Sam fought, it would be a tragic kind of thing,
Yeah.
If Bucky went bad again. But then again, like we've seen Bucky go bad and fight Captain America in the last 2 movies. So it's like they're just gonna do that again, or can we get something new, or I don't know.
Yeah, that's exactly what I was thinking. I think that now wouldn't be the right time to do that because we've seen it, as you're saying, and the door for Sam and Bucky to fight open and closed already. There's no need for that to happen. So I don't know. I gotta kind of call bullshit on that one. But anyway, She-Hulk news. So it's been confirmed that The Good Place's Jamila Jamil will be cast as Titania, and she will be she's supposedly going to be the big bad in She-Hulk, but I have to think if you're bringing in Tim Roth, wouldn't it make sense that Abomination would be the big bad and that Titania would just be one of the other villains involved in the series? Unless,
or if it's like a Poison Ivy, Bane, Batman, and Robin kind of thing, where she's like, she has like Abomination as like her kind of lapdog, and like he's the power.
Okay.
But I think they released that like 15 minutes before we went live last week. I remember because I couldn't think of her name or anything. But
right.
Yeah, Titania. She was created for Secret Wars
by Dr. Doom.
By Dr. Doom. So that's another character that's just like they got to do it. They got to go to Secret Wars. They got to do it.
That could stop. Maybe that's the part of the breadcrumbs that they lay to get there, or to ultimately bring Doom in, because She-Hulk was also part of the Fantastic Four for a very long time.
That she was.
So
yeah, it's. I mean, they know what they're doing. Kevin Feige, you're starting to see, like, especially with the Loki stuff, where he came out and said this is the most important show so far in terms of the future of the MCU, and you could just see the way they're peppering things in. It's just like, man, this is gonna get pretty wild, because there's gonna be a point where there's gonna be a show, that nonstop shows where one ends, one begins, and then movies in between, just for the next years.
Right. Yeah. No, I agree with you.
And then the days in between that's going to be Star Wars shows and movies. So it's going to be like, But I did see Kevin Feige's Star Wars film he's doing. He hired the showrunner of Loki, is the head writer on this Kevin Feige Star Wars movie.
Wow.
So, I mean, that's that guy's career. Rick and Morty did a lot for him. I mean, he was one of the writers and executive producers on Rick and Morty. And you can tell with Loki that's just so Rick and Morty, like with Miss Minutes and like all those little scenes, you can just tell. Yeah. And now he's doing Feige's Star Wars. So,
and one of the other producers is the one that wrote the Sam Raimi movie.
It's the same guy, Mark. I forgot.
Oh, it is the same guy. Okay.
Yeah, it's the same guy that did Loki. Is it that guy? And then the other one, the different guy, is the one that's doing Quantum Mania.
Okay, so that
from 3
mixing it up.
Another Rick and Morty writer is doing that.
Right.
Yeah.
So
which, Sunday, Rick and Morty season 5.
Yeah, premieres.
Can't wait for that. Yeah. Talk about that next week.
Yeah, absolutely. So let me ask you this. This just came to mind. Do we get Fantastic Four with She-Hulk instead of the Thing?
It'd be interesting. I mean, she's there,
She's there. And again, if we're doing the Secret Wars thing, I believe that happened after Secret Wars, that she became part of the Fantastic Four.
Yes, because the Thing, I know in the new Secret Wars, didn't they all, the thought they died or something. That Reed thought that Sue and Johnny and the Thing died. Because you know, there was a 2 Reed Richards in the new Secret Wars. There was a young one, the guy that wears a helmet, like he has I forgot his name, but and then the one that we know. But yeah, I think that happened right after Secret Wars, because in the original '80s one, didn't Ben decide to stay on Battleworld because he could stay in his human form.
Right.
So he was able to live not as a Thing. So he chose not to go back to Earth, and he stayed there. Yeah.
Right. And I think that's correct, and that's when she takes over. We also have, once again, the instead of Fantastic Four, it was the Fantastic Foundation later on, which again they shoehorned Spider-Man in there.
Oh yeah, I was gonna say that's the one with Spider-Man, right?
Yeah, Spider-Man, and wasn't there someone else that was replaced?
I can't think of it. Yeah, I can't think off the top of my head. Yeah, there's a bunch of people rotated in and out of there, but I remember She-Hulk and Spider-Man the most.
Yeah, I think Sue Richards was out, and maybe one of their kids was in the group or something along those lines. I forget.
Yeah, but I mean, She-Hulk she's always been a funny character. She's like, like almost that Deadpool Spider-Man mix. So, right. She'd always break the fourth wall, and she'd always tell the jokes, and she was hilarious. So right. I'm hoping that, I love the actress Tatiana Maslany. She's great in Orphan Black, the show that she was in. She's amazing for this. So I think whoever they throw her in with is going to be a blast.
Is it more likely that we see Matt Murdock in She-Hulk or in Spider-Man Far From Home?
I feel like Spider-Man Far From Home might do like a scene where you see like Nelson and Murdock in the background or something. Like, right. Or he's looking for a lawyer, or there's like some sort of hint at like Nelson and Murdock, right? Or Matt Murdock, but not actually Daredevil. But in She-Hulk, I think maybe that's possible. There'd be like a scene where he's defending someone else against who she's defending or whatnot, or something like that. But I think they're going to start sprinkling him in for sure.
Yeah. Could she be in Spider-Man as well? Could that be their introduction to her?
That would be cool.
Having her in a courtroom.
Yeah, I mean that could set up She-Hulk in the sense that, maybe she's just Jennifer Walters as a lawyer in Spider-Man, and then something that happens in Spider-Man injures her, and she needs a blood transfusion, which she gets from Hulk and becomes She-Hulk for the show. Right. So maybe they could set her up as her human character, and then kind of kill her off to set up her coming back, which would be pretty cool.
It could be that the series starts out with, her operating table, Mark Ruffalo coming in and saying, I can save her. I have her blood type, that type of a thing. And, and they're off to the races.
Yeah. That would even be cool if that's what gets us our angry Hulk back. Maybe Ruffalo or Professor Hulk gives a blood transfusion, and that for some reason reverts him back to Banner. And then we can get the real Hulk back. I love Professor Hulk was great. It works perfect for Endgame, but I want to see Savage World Breaker Hulk. Like I want to see Hulk. Like I remember the like Avengers Ultron Hulk kind of thing. Like and Ragnarok Hulk, where he's a gladiator Hulk. Right. Like, I miss that kind of thing. Because if She-Hulk is the same as Professor Hulk, she could still talk. She has her normal personality, but she's just big and green. So we can't have two of those. So maybe have Ruffalo go back, and we'll see. And then Red Hulk too. If Thunderbolt Ross is floating around all over the place, you never know. There's
so many possibilities.
Yeah, and then what is it? Hulkling is the boyfriend of one of Wanda's kids, right? I think. Right. Not is it Speed or Wiccan? I think it's Wiccan. No,
it's Wiccan.
Yeah, Wiccan and Hulkling.
But he's actually a prince from another planet, so he's similar.
He's half Skrull and half Kree.
Right, something like that. Yeah. And they're the first, I believe, openly gay Marvel characters. I think so. Yeah. And then there's Amadeus Cho is the other Hulk, and his mom was in Age of Ultron. She's the scientist that created Vision. She's the one that was able to put the mind into Vision.
and that's Margaret Cho, and her son is Amadeus Cho, who ends up being another Hulk, which is so there's so many possibilities.
So many things they've already peppered at us that we didn't even notice, and that's without talking about the salt and pepper in the salad. So let's see. The next thing here, Venom: Let There Be Carnage comes out on September 24th. It comes out a whole 3 weeks after Shang-Chi. Does that make sense for them to do that? Did they not learn from putting, Endgame, or no, it was Infinity War, Solo, and Deadpool together?
Yeah, that's. I would push it back at least another month. I mean, I don't know why you wouldn't have Venom come out more in the Halloween season.
Yeah,
do like late October 20th to that, because I mean
I think the problem
Venom and Carnage would be perfect for Halloween, and then you give Shang-Chi enough time to ride out by then.
Yeah, you give it kind of the 45 days that they're saying before it goes to Disney. The problem there is that I think Eternals comes out in the beginning of November.
Yeah, November 10th, I want to say. I'm not sure.
Yeah, so I mean, maybe that's why. Maybe they're thinking that Shang-Chi is going to give it less of a, I don't know, less a competition, and we'll see. Supposedly, there's no tie-in to Far From Home, but we'll see.
Who knows? That's the thing with Morbius. You saw all that news with Tyrese,
right?
When he came out, they asked him in an interview. They're like, "Oh, is this in the MCU?" And he goes, "Oh, yeah, it is." And the guy was like, "Wait, so Morbius takes place in the same world as the Avengers?" And Tyrese was like, "Oh, yeah, it totally does." And he's like one of the main actors in it. And then 2 hours later, Sony came out and was just like, "No, it doesn't. That's not true. It's false. It's wrong." Because all the YouTube pages had like all the videos posted like confirmed in MCU, and then Sony came out on Twitter. It was like, "No, that's not true." But that's what also is weird, because they were so quick to jump on Morbius not being in the MCU, but they've never addressed this Tobey Maguire Spider-Man Spider-Verse thing,
right?
Which is like huge news. It's like, if that's going to happen, just come out and say it and get everyone excited. Unless something in Loki, they're waiting for something to happen in Loki that explains how that is possible. Which they even did in this last episode. They showed all the different Lokis, and it's like the big ogre Loki and like the old man Loki and all the different Lokis. So that's how you explain Toby and Andrew and all that stuff. So maybe they're waiting for something.
End credit scene in one of these.
Yeah.
I think that's probably what it's going to be. And that may be why we don't have the Far From Home trailer, because I'm guessing that we're probably not going to see Far From Home until Black Widow comes out.
Yeah.
Black Widow drops July 7th.
I think, yeah.
Yeah. When does Loki finish?
If it's 6 episodes.
Yeah, I'm looking on IMDb.
I'm worthless when it comes to math.
14th. So it ends a week after
Black Widow.
And then Shang-Chi is right after that, which is supposed to have direct repercussions with Doctor Strange, because Shang-Chi is going to be taking over for the Eternal One in that storyline. Could we see a Tobey Maguire appear in Shang-Chi, or maybe at the end of, and maybe even at the end of Black Widow? And that's why Black Widow has never come out until now, because they needed to set the story up with everything else going on.
Yeah, that's true. Because even if Toby were to show up, or they were to hint some sort of multiple Spider-Man in Loki, it wouldn't make sense, because Loki's never met Spider-Man before. Spider-Man wasn't around for years after. Well, at least this Loki has. Well, I guess no Loki has ever met Spider-Man. They've never been in the same vicinity or movie as each other, except Infinity War, but that's after Loki was dead. So yeah, no, that'll be cool. I don't know. I'm I'm still trying to convince myself that it's going to be cool if Toby and Andrew show up, and I keep trying to ignore logic and be like, "This is ridiculous. This doesn't make sense. They can't do it yet." But I know for a fact if it's pulled off and they do it and it's awesome, then I'm going to be like cheering for it, So
yeah.
I just got to have faith in the Feige, but I don't have faith in Sony. That's the issue.
That's the problem. Yeah. I hear you.
Because they're all over the place. But yeah, no, that was the Morbius thing was hilarious because he was like 100% like, yeah, we're in the same world as the Avengers.
Right.
Sony's like, nope.
He could have just been trolling everyone, knowing.
Yeah, but all they do is lie now. So that's the other thing. It's
yeah.
As we talked about last week, I think that's a big new tactic of promoting these things because they're aware of all these YouTube channels. They know that they see these videos where people just make stuff up about like who's going to be in what, and they get millions of views. So they know like, all right, let's feed into this speculation culture.
Yeah, no, absolutely. So much to your point, it's kind of why it makes sense that they've also really like waited to do anything with, with the X-Men, with the Fantastic Four, with Deadpool, with Blade. They've recovered all of these characters, but they haven't just rushed out to put, movies out there with these properties. Why? Because they want to make sure that they fit into everything else.
Yeah.
And they want to make sure that it makes sense, just not release something for the sake of releasing it. So.
Exactly. And then you got to look at the things that are dyed in the wool. Like Ryan Reynolds 100% has signed, like they said, it's like the biggest contract, even bigger than Robert Downey Jr.
Oh, wow.
Disney for Marvel Studios. And that was a big thing that came out. And I think it was 100%. It was in Variety and like the main magazines and Hollywood Reporter and all that stuff.
Right.
And he's been posting pictures in like, Marvel Studios and all that stuff. So, like, I mean, for Deadpool to be getting a bigger contract than RDJ, that's pretty cool. Right. So we know all these things are going to get peppered in, but it's just a matter of when and where.
Well, you have to argue that Ryan Reynolds is actually probably a bigger actor than Robert Downey Jr. at this point in time, because look, for the most part, all of his movies are successful outside of what he's done in Deadpool, whereas Robert Downey Jr., Doolittle and Birth Date and stuff like that really has kind of tanked. So everything he's kind of done outside of the MCU hasn't really done well. So that could make sense for them to do that sort of a thing. Yeah. So our weekly update on John Wick, there's two things that were confirmed. One is that Lawrence Fishburne is back.
Yes, I saw that.
And the other one is that Hiroku Sanada will be joining John Wick. He is best known for the Raid movies. He was in Lost. He was in Wolverine. He was in Endgame, where
he's Scorpion in Mortal Kombat.
Yes, there you go.
Yeah. He was in the Endgame in the Hawkeye scene.
Yeah,
that's awesome. That guy's a magnificent fighter. Yeah.
Yes. So this should be
the best part of that Mortal Kombat movie. Him and Sub-Zero, the other guy from the Raid. Yeah.
Right. So cool. John Wick shaping up to be an Endgame style cast.
Yeah.
With everyone being announced. On to some DC news. John Cena is saying that the Suicide Squad is neither a sequel nor a reboot.
Well, having worked on it, I will say that like the way we were speaking of it, it's like looking at Evil Dead 2 compared to Evil Dead. You know how it's like almost a remake, but it's different, but it's not really a remake, and it's not really a sequel. It's that weird middle ground. Because the first Suicide Squad did so poorly, so it seems like it's like a I think the whatever they're calling it, reboot or sequel or whatever, fits into the humor of the movie. I think so. Like it's gonna, the fact like what is this? Like is this a sequel? Is this what is gonna that's part of the whole charm of how silly and ridiculous the movie's gonna be.
Yeah,
because it almost makes no sense. It's like wait, where are we picking up from here?
Yeah,
we don't really know. We have some of the same actors playing the same characters, but it's again DC has no idea what they're doing, and I think James Gunn knows that, and
Yeah.
that's what he's doing here is going to make it funny. Like he's going to almost be like parodying the wackiness of the DC mindset with this movie.
I think
he's a genius. He's a friggin' genius, that guy.
That's what I was going to say. This has all the writings of it being great. So
yeah, it's the funnest thing. I mean, Star Wars was my dream job, but the Suicide Squad was the funnest thing I ever worked on. Just
cool.
the stuff we made is going to blow your mind.
Cool. The last bit of DC news here. Warner Brothers reportedly thinks that Pattinson is the best Batman since Keaton.
I want to believe it,
But don't we hear that every new Batman?
All the time.
Yeah.
But I don't know. I've been familiar with Ben Affleck, obviously, from all the Kevin Smith stuff and like some of his movies. That I always thought like, I don't know if he's gonna be the best Batman. He ended up definitely impressing me. There were some scenes. I think some of my favorite Batman scenes, if not my favorite Batman fight scene of all the live action, was in Batman vs Superman, where he attacks that warehouse and gets all those guys. But I don't know. I love Robert Pattinson, man. I don't know if you saw The Lighthouse with him and Willem Dafoe. He's an incredible actor, and I've never seen a single Twilight movie, so I think a lot of the people that are criticizing him have probably seen the Twilight movies. I've never seen them. I've only seen his David Cronenberg films that he's done. And if Cronenberg is going to hire you, you got to have some sort of talent. Right. And then, the Lighthouse with him and Willem Dafoe is the director of The Witch. One of the most batshit insane movies I've ever seen. And it's just the two of them trapped in a lighthouse.
Right.
It takes place in like the 1700s. It's all black and white. And it's out of this world. And it makes me think that Pattinson definitely has the chops to really bring like a new kind of dark tone to Batman. Because the new movie looks dark.
Right.
It has a very dark vibe in that trailer. And like dark, violent kind of, which is what I'm looking for. I love it.
Right. But my question is, can Pattinson say this?
Do you bleed? Martha!
Wrapping things
that's
up.
what I loved about that trailer was, you think he's going to say, I am Batman.
Right.
Because it's been in every other movie, but the I am vengeance. And that's great. And I think I was watching an interview where they said that in the original Batman movie, the Michael Keaton one, where he says, I'm Batman. That was one of the original lines that he was supposed to say was I am vengeance. And they said it didn't fit or something. So they ad-libbed the I am Batman, and then it became the iconic line. Right. So like him saying that in this trailer was kind of like a nice throwback to that original script for the Burton one. Yeah.
Cool. Wrapping things up here, we're gonna jump back into the SWU here, the Star Wars universe, for our last 2 points here. A rumor that if I'm saying this correctly,
Cobb Vanth.
Yes.
Vanth?
Cobb Vanth.
Timothy Oliphant.
Timothy Oliphant. There you go. Will show up in Book of Boba Fett.
Yeah, he has to, right? We got to figure out how he got that armor.
Yeah.
I heard that the Book of Boba Fett it's the title encompasses like what happened to Boba Fett, how did he get here? And there's going to be a lot of footage between Jedi and now.
Okay.
And the cool part about that is you don't need Tamura to continue to play him if he's just in the armor and stuff like that,
Right.
You can just do the voice. You could have any younger actor, because I think it's like 7-8 years after Jedi Mando takes place. But well, I guess he would still kind of be around. He could look the same if they make him a little younger looking, but still, yeah, they can do so much with Boba Fett. Even if they do flashbacks of him working for Vader, Empire days, right? You don't need Tamura to show his face. You just have the actor, and he could do the voice. Yeah, and they could shoot anything they want with him. That's it's a good point of having a character with a helmet like that.
Yeah,
they could do anything to any time. But yeah, I'd love to see how. I'm sure Timothy Oliphant just grabbed the armor from the outside of the Sarlacc pit or something and just stole it. But that would be cool to see that that whole thing, because I love that character and I love Oliphant so much. You know.
Yeah, me too.
Even from Scream 2, where he played the killer, that's the first time I ever saw him. He was great in that. And Santa Clarita Diet, one of my favorite shows of all time, with him and Drew. So, yeah, that's cool. That'd be fun.
Yeah, one of my favorite shows of all time is Deadwood, which he was in.
Oh, yeah.
Which I absolutely loved. And then kind of an extension of that was Justified. He was kind of the same type of character, but like his hang-ups and his problems were a little different. And obviously, since that was on FX instead of HBO, it was a little cleaner.
A little toned down, yeah.
Yeah, they weren't swearing every 2 seconds, because Oliphant in that, him and Ian McShay, the big knock on that series is that they were throwing F-bombs and calling people MFers every 2 seconds. So I thought it was colorful and interesting. So
Tarantino has done very well for himself using that same exact approach to dialogue. So
yeah. And the last thing here is that Ben Mendelsohn will return as Krennic in the Andor series.
Oh, that makes sense. I heard he was going to be in the Andor series. That's the one that he was supposed to be in, because I heard the Inquisitors are coming to Obi-Wan. But yeah, that would be awesome. I loved Mendelsohn in that role, you know.
Right. It was awesome. Yeah. And it could kind of show us the rise of both characters, you know. It could show us what Cassian Andor went through before Rogue One, and the same thing what Krennic, how he rose through the ranks of the Empire to get where he needed to go.
And even at that point, bring back what's his name from Mando. You know, the scene where they infiltrate the base and Mando has to take his helmet off with Bill Burr.
Oh yes.
About Operation Cinder, because that guy, he would have been around back then too.
Right.
So you could start bringing in some really cool imps to kind of fill in that side of it. Yeah, that'd be cool.
Yeah, I'm sure that you could do more with the Saw Gerrera storyline as well. So there's a lot of things that can happen there, because I think they also said that Andor was going to be similar to Mandalorian, that it was going to be like a 3-season series as opposed to just a limited run.
Oh, really? Oh, that'll be awesome.
Yeah.
Well, they better bring K2SO back in there. I'll be upset if
I'm hoping as well, because obviously Alan Tudyk and K2 were
genius.
Were great in that. So
congratulations, you are being rescued. Please don't resist.
So great. Anyway, that is all of our points for today. We will be back next week with more talk of Loki, Bad Batch, Rick and Morty, which you mentioned as well, starts up on Sunday, excuse me. So we'll have plenty to talk about, plus some more quick hits next week. And that is pretty much it. I want to thank you, Christian, for being on board again this week, filling in.
Thank you for having me, as always.
Yeah, Christian will be back next week as well. And I want to thank everyone for listening to this or watching it live, listening to the replay, or even watching the replay. Thank you, folks. Remember that we record this show every Thursdays at 6 p.m. Eastern, 3 p.m. Pacific, 11 p.m. in the UK. You can join us in the chat and, discuss the show as we're going on. We haven't had, and nobody joined us in the chat this week, but, it's cool when people do, and we are able to, when you're in the chat and Chris and I are there, you're always throwing out questions and ideas and different things. So that's always awesome to have that type of interaction and participation. So you can join us on Facebook, on Facebook and on YouTube. And the weeks when I do this without Chris, we're actually broadcasting to 13 different platforms. So you can join us on, well, just keep an eye out for Galaxy of Geeks when we announce new shows, and
iTunes as well, right?
well, iTunes is where the audio.
The audio, the podcast, yeah.
Yeah, for that, from the audio side of things, it's iTunes and Spotify, and we're on Amazon now as well. So if you do have an Alexa device, you can actually listen to the show. You can just tell your device to play the latest episode of Galaxy of Geeks, and it will do that for you. I've tried it. So that is it. Just want to remind you guys to subscribe, share, like, so on and so forth. And I don't have the Han Solo queued up. Let's see. Let me pull it up. We always end things on Han saying, and from there, I say, see ya next time.
May the Force be with you.
Right here on the Galaxy of Geeks live stream. Oops, I got to pull the right show graphics up here. Here we go.